Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. You have heard many speakers on different topics about the ancient culture of the world. I say of the world because the United Nations was not there, and so many world wars have happened, and the antiquity of the ancient history, which the world calls today mythology, is actually irrelevant from the point of view of the historical perspective, because a lot needs to be learned from all the history that we have rejected as mythology. That Sattology, we try to bring in topics which are from the ancient times, but more relevant today, even before. So today we have a very special guest. She has spoken on our call twice on our channel, and she has enlightened us on many different topics. So today we're going to focus on tradition versus culture, and also some history on medicinal sciences, which we also covered in another show also. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Deepali Patwadkar. Namaskar, Deepali ji.
Namaste. I'm glad. I'm very glad to be back over here, and thank you all for even all the viewers who are watching this. So very glad to be back with you.
So what do you mean when you say tradition? What does it actually mean?
Yeah, we started with speaking about cultures, and today we are going to. I'm going to talk about traditional medicines. So, the first thing I should really explain is how come we are moving from culture to traditions. So, I should start with the very smallest unit, and the smallest unit is customs. So, what happens is every family might have their. These are very small things, like, for example, maybe some family has this custom of having their dinner at 6 o'clock in the evening. So that is a custom for the family. And there are customs for, individual, that somebody would say, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. This is my custom. But when these customs, they are uh, given from one generation to the next, then it becomes a tradition. So a family can have its own traditions which are going on for generations together. For example, we can look at textile printing. So there is this business of textile printing going on in the family, and everybody in that family, they use the same blocks for printing. They use the same designs, they use the same method, the same skills. So that becomes a tradition. So tradition is something which is handed down from one generation to the next, and it is a small part of a culture. Culture is a collection of all these things. Culture is a collection of customs and traditions and rituals and knowledge and beliefs, everything that is created by the society and which goes on from generation to generation together. So today, when we are going to talk about traditional medicines, we are going to talk about one small part of a culture which is handed from one generation to the next. So it could be knowledge, it could be a set of knowledge, or it is a set of skills which is passed from one generation to the next. So
Generally, we say
when
grandma's
we speak
remedies.
about,
Yeah.
yeah,
Generally talk about
exactly.
grandma's remedies, and most of the modern, today's families, they reject grandma's remedies and they go for the expensive alternatives from the doctors. So it is getting lost in the Western society as well as Indian society also. And so in some cultures they consider the saffron as a medicinal herb, especially in India and Persia. These places, saffron is considered very medicinal. But in US, lemon and honey is considered a very big medicinal herb in the US, because turmeric is not there. Now the turmeric is coming in because of India, but earlier it was not there. So what are the traditions which you think are lost according to you? And then we can begin over there. Did you hear my question?
No, I didn't hear. Actually, can you just get me on my phone also so that
Uh,
I have a better connection over there?
yeah, but if you, okay, just hold on. Because if you do on the phone, then this will be lost.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, okay. Uh, I see. Let maybe just repeat the question and we will go ahead with this.
Yeah. So what are
Hopefully, my
the,
Wi-Fi will continue.
so what are the, so I was explaining about in US the culture is honey and lemon is a big part of the culture because lemon is very commonly grown in western US, west part of the US, west coast of US, and honey is all over the US, very ancient. So honey and lemon is a big part of the ancient remedies, grandma's remedies of in USA. But what are the other remedies which you see coming from the international perspective, like India, Persia, and other places, including Japan?
Yeah, most of these places they have herbal remedies. All of all of them, like even if when we look at the Native American remedies, when we look at South African, even ancient European medicines, or we look at the Australian, New Zealand, all of these remedies are based on herbs. And in that, especially when we look at India, what we see is we see medicines that are made from a plant, from the every parts of the plant body. Like there will be medicines made from leaves, from stems, from flowers, from fruits, from seeds, from pods, from the roots, from the bark of the tree. Every part of various trees, they are used as a medicine. And as you mentioned, turmeric is a root, and the powder of that root has been used in India for a very long time. In fact, there was one excavation of a Saraswati Sindhu site, or which is known as the Indus civilization also. So in one of those sites, uh, it was found that the people used ginger and turmeric, both of them, in making some curry. So we understand that ginger is also has medicinal values. So ginger as well as turmeric, they have been in use in the Indian continent for as far back as 5 to 7,000 years. So that's a very very long time since these traditional medicines are used.
A little bit delay in the reception. Uh, so when you talk about these ancient like ginger you mentioned and turmeric you mentioned, now from India they have flowed in other places. You know, India, the first influence was Persia, which was traditionally part of India, but there was divided or lost because of the distance from.
Especially seen during the time of Islamic Golden Age. So sometime from the 8th century onwards, so 8th century onwards, almost like 400, 500 years, the Arabic people who were followers of Islam, they started studying all the ancient sciences. So they were Arabic as well as the Persian people. So they were studying the Greek scriptures, they were studying the Indian scriptures as well. And we find that during this Islamic Golden Age, they translated a lot of Greek medical documents or scriptures into Arabic, and they also translated the Indian medical documents like the Sushrut Samhita or the Charak Samhita, which are the Ayurvedic books. And these were translated into Arabic, and a new system of traditional medicine was built up. This new system was a Persian and Arabic system, and this system, it came to India sometime when the Mughals came to India. So around the 13th century, when this system came from the Arabs, what Arabs told that this is the Greek system, because they had already learned so many things from Greeks as well. So So in India and even in Persia, the Greeks were known by the island. So they were called as Ionians. So in India, they came to be called as Yunan. And this medical system was called, or still it is called as the Unani system. And today we have this Unani system flourishing in India, and it's still very much in use. So we see this Unani system, which is created, which is a mixture, you can say, of the Greek and the Indian and the Persian and even the Arabic medicines, and it's still alive.
So do you
Sorry about
think,
that. There are some issues today.
no, no worries. So do you think that the traditional medicine, which is, you mentioned roots and leaves, do you think that is how is it relates to the modern Western medicine, or how does it, is it better or worse, or how these traditions in medicinal things, how do you compare them?
Yeah. Uh, First of all these traditions from all over the world, these traditions are very old. And what we see is that all these people, the ancient people, they have learned this from animals. So uh, they have seen that, if animals like, dogs and cats, they will eat some herbs if they are having a stomach ache. So from there, they slowly started learning, and that is how this knowledge kept on building. So that is one way. Another thing that we see is that this knowledge, I will speak about the Indian Ayurveda system, which is the Indian traditional system of medicine. This system, it had evolved quite a lot. It has evolved quite a lot. In fact, what we see is that we see some manuscripts. So we see the Sushrut Samhita, in which Sushrut, who is considered as the father of surgery in India, he has mentioned so many different types of surgery, 8 types of different surgeries. He has mentioned more than 200 types of instruments that are used for surgery. He also mentions endoscopy and the instruments that should be used for endoscopy. So there are so many things that we see, and from this we understand that the traditional medical system had developed quite a lot. So we see that, this Sushruth, he is performing plastic surgery, he is performing rhinoplasty, he is performing cataract operations, he is also performing C-sections. So we see all these kinds of surgeries that are happening almost as far back as 6000 BC. This is the date of Sushruth, which is of, found by Dr. Nilesh Oak. So this is what we see that has been happening in traditional medicine and traditional surgery for a long time. In fact, when the British came to India, and there was this small battle of the British and the Tipu Sultan. And in this battle, Tipu Sultan had the noses of some of the soldiers cut. So after a year, these 5 soldiers, they went to a person in India who used to fix the noses. And there were 2 surgeons from the British Army who went along to see how this surgery works. So they went along and they learned how this surgery is done. And after that, they wrote some papers in the British journal. I think this one was called as a gentleman's journal. So in this journal, they wrote a paper as to how the rhinoplasty is done by taking a section of skin from the head and then flipping it over on the nose and completing the surgery. So later on, after this, the plastic surgery was done in the Indian way. So we see that so many practices in the modern medicine, they are based on the traditional medicine. So even surgery and the surgical tools, many of them, they were learned by the modern medicine from Ayurveda. So this is one thing. uh, in fact, even if we look in Europe itself, we see that after Renaissance, uh, the Europeans, they started going back to their Greek roots. Like earlier we had seen that in the Islamic golden age, the Arabs, they had learned so many things from Greeks. And during this time, the Europeans, they had just, like, they had given up on their Roman and uh, Greek heritage. But after Renaissance, they started learning everything that Greeks and Romans, they had preached and they had taught. So this was the time when Europe again started studying the Greek medicine. So we have Hippocrates, who was a Greek medical person, and he had done so much work in the field of medicine. So we see that, all of those, that knowledge started to get revived, and the modern medicine has learned these things from traditional medicine from all over the world.
Most of the Western historians won't agree generally. So when you talk about the medical sciences and other things, and even the Indian Medical Association, they opposed. So when the some Indian Ayurvedic, uh, India is a whole ministry, Ayush ministry, they are not able to convince Indian Medical Association also to use the Ayurvedic or the tradition medicine, or the historical, whatever you call it, a historical medicine. In fact, when the Nadi meter is a yantra developed by one Bangalore S Vyasa, uh, S Vyasa organization, and that is not accepted, not certified by the IMA. So India being the home of traditional medicine, how is it not able to recognize their own historical uh, sciences? And if India doesn't recognize its own system, why will Western world recognize ancient medicine which is coming from India? What do you think on that?
Absolutely, absolutely right point that you have put forth, Adityaji. Today, when the thing is that modern medicine has learned so much from Ayurveda, modern medicine has learned so much from Sushrut, and not just surgery, not just some of the medicines, not just procedures and instruments, but modern medicine has also learned about inoculation of smallpox from from the inoculation practice which was carried out in India for a long time. So today, when we are looking for a vaccine for COVID, we must know that this practice has been in India for centuries together. And there are records of British medical people from early 18th century, from even from 15th century, which tell that there were Indian Brahmins in Bengal who used to carry out inoculation for smallpox. So when the modern medicine owes so much to its parent, it is really surprising that today, when IMA, which is the Medical Association of India, it is going against its own roots. It is going against Ayurveda, and it's really surprising because they should actually, when any medical research is done or any scientific research is done, you have to mention your sources. From where did you learn all these things? So I think this is a problem, that modern medicine is not acknowledging its sources. It is not acknowledging its parents. And this is a problem.
It is a big controversy. Like if you go to any Indian doctor, I'm talking about the Indian doctors, so 1 in 7 patients in USA are seen by an Indian doctor, Indian origin doctor. So that's in USA, that's a number of Indian doctors are here. And there's a trust factor on Indian doctors is higher than any other doctor because of their experience and how much they have seen different types of patients. But and American Medical Association recommends yoga as a therapy for recuperation. But the as far as the medicine goes, there is one common question asked, that has Indian medical system recognized it? If Indian medical system recognizes it, then it's a very easy for American Medical Association to adopt it with their own testing. But in today's world, vaccination or pharmaceutical is a huge business. Insurance is a huge business. Survivability is not a business. It's unfortunate. So whether a patient survives or not, like there is a statistics shown, and I'm not against any kind of medical science, but I'm a neutral observer. The more people die of side effects than of the actual cure itself, actual
Yeah,
disease itself.
yeah.
And so what are in the traditional medicine, what I have learned or heard is that generally no side effects, because those products are natural based on the plant based material, and the modern some medicines are mostly based on animal based residue
Hmm.
and chemicals in it. So the survivability in a traditional medicine is way higher.
Yeah.
But the cure cannot be fast. So if somebody is so is that a misconception, or it is just a propaganda against a traditional medicine?
I think there must be a little more time, because the way traditional medicine will treat some disease and the way modern medicine treats a disease, there is a difference. What modern medicine treats is the symptoms. So if I am having a headache, modern medicine will give me a tablet of crocin. I just take that painkiller and my headache is gone. So it is instant. But what traditional medicines do is they go to the root cause of the headache, and then they try to resolve that problem, and this takes a little more time. So even if it takes a little more time, it is actually doing a better job. So this is a misconception actually, that traditional medicines are going to take a long time. So I would say it's a misconception, because it is going to the root and taking care of the disease. So that is one thing. The second thing that you mentioned was about the side effects, and you are absolutely right, because whenever we go to a modern medicine practitioner, what they will do is they will prescribe some tablets, and along with that they will also give me one along with antibiotic. The name itself tells that it is antibiotic. So there is an antibiotic tablet, and I will also have to do something so that my acidity doesn't increase. So in the prescription itself, the doctor knows that there is going to be a side effect. So this modern medicine, it does have its side effects, and the traditional medicines, because I think they are based on natural elements like the herbs, and it is also based on, it's actually food medicine, so it doesn't have side effects as such, and that is the beauty of traditional medicines.
So do you have, like, especially when you mentioned Sushruta, do you have like document? Do you have you done research on what kind of cures are available, or what kind of medicinal procedures can be done in Sushruta? You mentioned some of them. Do you have more details on that?
Um, Sushrut is actually, Sushrut and Charak together, they mention so many things. Not only do they mention fractures, not only do they mention how to treat a wound, not only do they mention how to do sutures, what kind of instruments should be used, how they should be kept clean, and they, along with all the diseases, be it diabetes, be it fever, along with all these diseases, they also mention the things that are around, uh, around this treatment. So for example, what Charak tells us in his Samhita is that some of the areas are for the doctors to treat, and there are some areas for the surgeon to treat. So he gives that very fine, what do you say, he gives that very fine boundary between the two. And I would also like to mention one more thing, Aditya ji, over here, is that Ayurveda is just one branch of medical sciences. India has more branches of Ayurveda. The other branches of Ayurveda are like, Gaja Ayurveda. So that is concerned with the treatment of elephants. Then there is Ashva Ayurveda, which is concerned with treatment of horses. And there is Vriksha Ayurveda, which is concerned with uh, uh, plant diseases. Then there is medicine for the cattle. So we see that this traditional medicine is also taking care of all the domestic animals as well. So this is a huge area where the what do you say, where the health of people as well as animals is taken care of. In fact, there is one inscription by Samrat Ashok, and this inscription is from 300 3rd century BCE. So what he writes in his inscription is that he has built clinics throughout his empire for humans, for people. And along with that, he has also established clinics for animals. So all those traders who are, going on their horses, or the people who are using bullock carts, so he has dispensaries for the bullocks, for the cattle, for the uh, elephants, and for horses, all of them, throughout his empire. And he says that there were some places in my empire where they didn't have medicinal herbs. So he says that he has planted the medicinal herbs as well near these dispensaries, so as to ensure that each dispensary has this stock of medicines as well, right in their backyard.
You mentioned some very, very, very good points, and I did not know that this information. And so, one of the things which you know is called pashudhan. Animals are important for the society in a way they can be used productively. And one of the things we have seen is that animals are the useful animals are put for slaughter, and all animals are useful. I'm not against any species, but some of the most useful animals are put for slaughter, and for other animals which have and many of them are slaughtered for hunting and other things, but all of them form an ecosystem. Now, as far as the today's topic goes on the medicinal system, it's very heartening to know that the animals were also taken care because it was pashudhan, and
Mhm.
they were the wealth of the country. And today, some animals are killed and tractors are introduced, and the entire concept of organic farming goes to dustbin after that, because the way you sow the seed, the way you till the land, the way you cultivate the crops, all forms part of the organic process. Now, in this particular area, especially in the case of animal usage of animals and protecting animals, so do you think that there is a separate book for them for in Sushrut, which takes care of these ailments of those species also?
Yes, these are different books. These are different branches of medicine.
Uh-huh.
And we see even in our scriptures that there were people who were specialists in these area. For example, in the Mahabharata text, we see that when all the Pandav, they went to live in the kingdom of Virat, they took up different occupations. And among the five Pandavas, Nakul and Sahadev, they took the occupation of taking care of cattle and taking care of the horses. So we understand from this that they were subject matters experts. There was this profession, at least going back for 7,000 years ago. We see that there is this profession for a person, that he is all that he is going to do is take care of animals. And not just animals, there are separate people for separate kind of animals. Today what we see is that a veterinary doctor, he He takes care of horses, he takes care of cattle, he takes care of sheep, he takes care of cows and dogs and cats and every other animal. But in the Mahabharata, we see that there are different people for different types of animals. So we see that, as you said, Pashudhan, uh, animals, they are equivalent to riches. So taking care of them, maintaining them, ensuring that they have a long and a healthy life is necessary for the community. A community becomes rich when its stock of these animals is rich.
So there are many laws across the world. Every country has a law to protect one or the other species. Like the Middle East, they protect the camel, and nowadays they are killing them, but it's used to be now protecting the camels. India is one land where all types of animals are there. Only talking about the animals in the species, where you have elephants, you have camels, you have horses, you have everything. And general misconception is being spread that horses are not from India. This is very crazy notion, but it is also going in the textbooks that the horses came to India from other lands. But people fail to understand that the today's India is a political India map. The Indian landmass goes right from Persia to almost Thailand. That is called Bharatvarsh, and so it's a huge piece of land. So now this mis so due to this, another misconception is that the medicine came from Persia, but people fail to realize that few thousand or 100 years back, Persia was considered part of India, not part of any other land. And where do you think is the center of all the ancient Indian medicinal research? Which is the center in India?
Ah, that is some, I think that will, if I speak anything on that, it will be more of speculation. But when we say traditional medicine, we must understand that every community, every small area will have their own traditions. And throughout India, we will see that, as you had mentioned, grandmother's remedies. So every area will have their own system of medicine. And when we look at Ayurveda, it must have collected all of this snippets of wisdom from everywhere, and then it must have, like, grown to the uh, grown the way it has grown today. So if we have to speak about, like, we can tell where these practitioners were. Like, for example, we know that Charak was a, a student of Takshashila, which is today in northern Pakistan. So we can say that, one of the practitioners of Ayurveda is from northern Pakistan. Or even Sushrut, he was from somewhere near Patna. So we can tell about that, but we cannot say that, that is what, there is one particular area in India where this has bloomed. At least I cannot say that.
No, that's very commonsensical also, because herbs are available everywhere. So, but there
Yes.
should be one area where they did all the research and documented it and tested it, and then experimented on it, and then they are able to say this is established. And which you answered also, that Sushruta is from Patna area, and Takshila is intrinsically connected to India. It's a Hindu culture, and so it's again connected to our ancient culture. But the see, even Native Americans were relying on local herbs. Like rosemary is very common in North America. Rosemary, spice rosemary, or herbs like cilantro. These are very common herbs. Now another very controversial topic comes is weed and
Mhm.
marijuana, weed, which is also being used in Ayurveda also. And another one comes in the garlic and onions, which are also important part of Ayurvedic. And there are different types of garlic, different types of onions everywhere. Do you think that these all herbs originated and were exported from India, or they were in every other place? Because the local climate of North America, I can say very easily, doesn't support natural growing of herbs like onion or garlic. It's very cold weather, very very
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
So they must have traveled from somewhere else.
Mhm. Um, I would like to start with a small story over here. Um, if when we go back in time and we see that, the ancient man, he was basically dependent on hunting. So he is hunting animals and eating that. Now, what happens is in the tropical areas where the climate is so warm, the flesh of that animal, gets it becomes bad very soon. This doesn't happen in areas where the climate is cold. So, and the same thing happens with the plants as well. The plants that grow in the tropical area, all those plants, they are attacked by bacteria and viruses which which grow in, warm areas. So these plants, they had their own system of tackling with all these things. And that is why we see, like, plants like black pepper, which are very what do you say, very hot and very spicy. So these plants started producing these kind of stuff, so that they were taking care of themselves, they were protecting themselves from not only bacteria but also from animals that were grazing upon them. And this ancient man, he realized that there are plants which are secreting this kind of hot spices, and if we use that for our food, they also last for a longer time. And that is why in the tropics we see that humans started using all these kind of uh, spices. So we have garlic, we have ginger, we have turmeric, we have black pepper, there is cumin seeds, so many of them. So they started using this. And we see that the same tropical area of even the Americas or even along Indonesia, they have red pepper, red chili, green chili, all these things they started using as a material which is going to add to the taste of food, as well as it is going to take care of the food. Also, the second thing what happens is, when we eat this type of food, that chemicals, those chemicals are going to act in the same way in our body as well. So even when we also eat this black pepper and cumin seeds and all these things, they are going to fight some infections in our body as well. So we see that these are, they have the medical use as well. And as you said, Aditya ji, that all these type of spices, they had to be exported from the tropics. So they have been exported from Central America, from India, and from Indonesia area to all the countries of the world, especially to the colder countries, because there this kind of plants didn't grow at all. So the tropics is the place where these spices were grown and exported.
Now, South America has a very common weather pattern like India. South America has is very green in terms of it's a large continent and very large forest cover. And there are many tribes in South America. They openly profess their connection to India, ancient connection to ancient India. And
Yeah.
many of the spices over there are very similar to India, except
Mhm.
turmeric, except garlic, and except onions. Other than that, everything else seems to be connected. And ginger also. Ginger, black cloves, and also anise. Anise is star-shaped spice that is
Yeah.
either common to Thailand or India. So when you say, and also the dalchini in India, it's
Cinnamon.
so even that is connected to India. Other than that, most of the spices are common, and also there is a big use of chilies in curing something like the killing the worms in the stomach. Another thing, they use a lot of chilies over there also. So, do you think that in your research, in your see that that most of these medicines or medicinal, where the food is a medicine itself, when we say sattvic food as bal arogya, bal strength as well as arogya. So, does that play an important role in determining the spice, the right spice for a human body, according to Sushruta or any other?
Yes, actually, um, uh, food as medicine, that has been the thought which is common across traditional medicine. So we even see Hippocrates saying the same thing. He says, eat your food like medicine, otherwise, you will have to eat medicines like your food. And we see the same thing even in the Indian tradition. In fact, in India, the food is different in different parts of India. And that is also based upon the climate in that area and what kind of food is necessary for a good health in that area, for the people living in that area. So we see that people in along the coastal lines, they will be using coconut oil in in their daily food. And there are people who are in the central India, they will eat groundnut oil, which is also good for health as well. So we see people using different types of food in different areas, and not only that, people will also change their diet according to the season. So we will have like now this we have winter. So in winter it is common all across India to eat sesame seeds. So because it gives heat, and it also has a good content of oil. So this is really useful when this is consumed during the winter season. So we see that food and the spices, they are different based on geography, based on season. And I think this is the wisdom which has come over thousands of years, which has gathered over thousands of years.
So, Ayurveda classifies body into kapha, vata, and pitta types. Oils are according to that, and the spices are according to that, to to balance the dosha. They call it the
Yeah.
balance the faults. And now that kind of finesse is not there in the Western society at all. They use one oil for everything, and they use one. There's a whole problem of homogeneity, or keeping everyone same in the Western society. Now, so therefore, the oils are also different in India. There is a sesame oil, there's a mustard oil, and the concept of mixed oil, vegetable oil, is Western concept, not from India. And then there is a ghee, and then there is a the butter. These are all the fats which are coming from India. So how relevant in your study, like this kind of differentiation, you don't find anywhere in the world, that you have a different oil for cooking different foods on different days. So do you have you done any research on that, on oils?
No, no, I haven't really done what do you say, a deep research on this particular area. But as you said, what we see in the Indian food is the heterogeneity. What we see is the variety. And Ayurveda tells us that when we are having our lunch, say, it should have shadras. It should be shadras purna ahar. It should have 6 different tastes. It says that it should have, we should be eating salty, bitter, sour, sweet, and what do you say, turat and bitter. So we should be eating all these 6 types of food. We should have all these 6 types of tastes in our plate. So that is one thing that Ayurveda tells us. And it also tells us another thing which you mentioned a little earlier, Adityaji, is yuktahara viharasya. It tells us that, every person should have balanced food, balanced sleep, balanced work, balanced amount of work, and balanced amount of sleep. Only when all these things are in balance, you will be a healthy person. So basically, the traditional systems and Ayurveda as well, they focus on maintaining health rather than curing a disease. So they will prescribe, what do you say, prevention rather than cure.
I think that's the philosophical difference right there between the Western science and the Ayurvedic sciences from India, medical sciences. Prevention versus cure and versus immediate remedy. So, is there something on the immediate remedy, because people don't want to compromise on their eating habits nowadays. They just want to continue what their grandma has told them, or they suppose what their grandma has told them. But nowadays the culture is McDonald culture, where whenever you want, you get it, and the food is so cheap. It doesn't matter whether you are it's good for your body, because people will say that, okay, I'll take a medicine if I fall sick. That's the concept now. And filling the belly is more important than filling the belly with quality. That is gone. So in today's context, when people are looking for instant gratification, and the people have made hunger a big business, do you think that the ancient traditional sciences can still be accepted by the society?
I think as and how we start studying these ancient sciences, and as we take the experience of our modern living, with age we really start to realize the benefits of following the ancient sciences. So when I look back at the way my grandparents were living, I see that they used to eat little food. They never used to eat like a full stomach. They wouldn't ever have a full stomach meal. They'll say there should be a little space in your stomach for air, and there should be a little space in your stomach for liquid, and little space for solid food. That is how, the space in your stomach, only one third should be filled with solid food. That is the way they lived their lives. And once we start realizing the benefits of it, like cooking the food yourself and having lots of variety in your food and eating in small amounts, and possibly, even now this is being put forth by the modern science as well, that intermittent fasting, that you should have long gaps between your meals. So all these things are ancient practices, and I think we are relearning all of them. And I guess it will just come back.
I'm sure it is going to come back. And since we are going through the pandemic, I think a lot of changes are going to come, because we realize that cleanliness is very important in cooking as well as in living. So, Dipaliji, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on this one. I would like to go deep dive into that, but the time is limited, and we'll come back again on the same topic with much more data. So, namaskar, and thank you to all the viewers for watching it live, and do watch the YouTube video and comment live over there too. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Aditya ji. It was good to be back over here.
Thank you.
Thank you.